All right. Good evening once again, members. Thank you for joining. I can see we have quite a good number of us on the line. Thank you so much, Jacinta. I can see our chairman is on the line, although I know he may be having some network challenges. Thank you so much, chairman, for joining. George, Gideon, Nola, Philip, Lema, we have a good number. Kendwiwa, Helen, Wanjiro, Simon Muniu. Thank you so much for joining. We've been giving some allowance for most of our members to join, but I think it's about time we start. We are officially beginning the financial wellness training that we've been really shouting about. And we are shouting because we believe it's worth the experience. And so we really hope that since you have been able to join the first session, please make sure you keep up and be consistent, because these sessions are tied to each other for you to be able to realize long-term success. My name is Miriam Dekay. I'm the CEO of Telepost Sacco. As I mentioned, we have our chairman on the background. At some point, he may be able to say hi when he's able to. But maybe a few online rules, as we usually do. When you are joining Zoom meetings, kindly put your mic on mute when you're not speaking. That will really help us to improve the quality of the feed. Possibly, let's also have our videos off so that we also improve the quality of the feed. We are expecting hundreds of us to join tonight. And so if we adhere to those two rules, we should be able to listen in well. So we have our consultant on site. His name is Andrew Kibe. He will be able to tell us a bit more about himself, but it's important for us to share with you why, as Telepost Sacco, we decided to do this. Why a financial wellness program? What is it all about? And we realize as Telepost Sacco, we want to do more than just ask you as a member to save and borrow and maybe make some interest income at the end of the year, share it out as interest and dividends, and that is it. We were asking ourselves, together with the board and management, what can we do as a SACCO to add value? The key word in this entire program is value addition. We want to add value to your life as a member. We want to see you prosper beyond Telepost Sacco, beyond retirement, and beyond changing jobs, beyond throughout the various stages of life. So our keyword here is value addition. We want to improve quality of life. We understand the times that we are living in. It's one of the reasons why we've been asking ourselves very hard questions. How do we make sure that we don't somehow sink in whatever situation we could be in as a country? How do we make sure that our member, who is our dear customer, is able to not only survive, but thrive and prosper in this economic situation, in that job that you are having, in that side hustle, in your family, in your plans, financial plans? How do we add value? That is where we are here, members. We want to challenge us to ask questions. Ask questions, ask yourself, why are you making the financial decisions that you are making? Why are you saving with a SACCO? Why are you investing wherever you're investing? Why are you buying land? Why are you borrowing? What are you doing with the money that you are borrowing? And on and on and on. So I am sure at the back of your mind, you always have these questions, but it's time that we ask these questions together. They usually say that it's easier to bury our heads in the sand rather than acknowledge the reality. So we are here to remove our heads from the sand. We are here to admit that it is probably not working in our lives here or there concerning our finances, and what can we do about it for the sake of our children that are to come after us, and even for our sakes. So that is why we have Mr. Andrew Kibe. Karibu sana, Andrew. Thank you for being here with us. So yes, you will get an opportunity now to say hi to our members. Thank you so much for those that are still joining in, we are just introducing the sessions, and we've been requesting us to probably mute our videos to avoid much distractions, and also, mute your sound and put your video off to improve the quality of the feed. Kindly, if you could do that. We'll have an opportunity to ask questions within the last 15 or 20 minutes of this session. So we request you kindly put your questions here. If you are able to do it on WhatsApp, it's okay. We'll be able to check there also. But here on the WhatsApp feed chat, just type your questions. We'll be able to respond. Our facilitator is able to see them. So kindly do your best to write down your questions. We'll also have some of you probably asking directly to our facilitator. So as for those who are still joining in, Andrew Kibe is here with us, and I would like him to introduce himself, tell us who he is, and probably we'll pick it up from there. So we'll do this as a Q&A today. We'll be asking some questions to our facilitator for us to understand why we are here today. So karibu sana, Andrew, for introductions.
Thank you so much, Madam Marianne. Let me start off by thanking the chairman, Mr. Chairman, and the board, to you, Madam CEO and management, and for the entire family members of Telepost. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to empower your members through my various experiences and what I've managed to find out over the experience of both working as well as my education. Let me start off by saying that my name is Andrew Kibe. And for those young generation, you can see my face is not the one that comes to your mind. There's another Andrew Kibe who outside there has really had some issues and people don't like hearing that name. So as you can see the face, don't confuse me to him. So allow me just to take you through about my background in terms of my education. I did my primary in a school called Martin Luther in Nairobi in Eastlands. Then my high school, I did O-levels at Laser Hill Academy in Ongata Rongai. And then I did my A-levels, Form 5 and 6 at Aga Khan Academy. From there, I joined the University of Heriot-Watt in Scotland, where I studied actuarial mathematics. I moved from there, I went to South Africa. I did a second degree in financial modeling and derivatives. And then I specialized in terms of profession in risk management. So that's what my background is in terms of education. So with regards to experience, I have slightly over 18 years of experience, having worked in different countries, but mainly within the space of financial sector. So I started at pension, then I moved to insurance, then I moved to banking, then I moved to a place where most of us don't like hearing, which is CRB. And then my last place of work was the Nairobi Securities Exchange. So from there I left and I decided to set up my own consulting firm. So I set up two companies. So one of it focuses mainly on risk management, where I train and consult in the space of risk management, specifically targeting Saccos, because Saccos are very behind in that field. So the second company is called Droma Limited, which trades as Dreamers Club Africa. And this is the one that actually we are focusing on empowering people around personal finance wellness. It started off as focusing on the children. I had no interest of empowering adults. And you're going to see the reason why that is the case as we proceed on with this program. But then as I taught children, parents started realizing a sudden shift in the mindset of these children, and they were becoming very savvy in terms of personal finance. They were asking questions which parents could not answer. And therefore, parents started realizing that our approach is very different from what is currently outside there. And they could feel that our approach was better than what exists outside there. And so I started getting demands or requests to come up with a program for adults. And that started a roller coaster. I started getting invites from different clubs, corporates, Sacco started calling me. And so I decided just to open up the entire spectrum to teach any group of people who are willing to learn these things. So that is how I ended up at your Sacco. One of the staff of this Sacco attended a training I was conducting in Mombasa 2 years ago. It was just a 2 hours training, and she came back and really bothered your CEO. So your CEO reached out to me and we discussed, and she told me about the plan she had for you members. And she felt that I had some value which could actually be of great to all of you. And that's why on the introduction part, she's actually underlined the word value. It's value addition we're looking at here. So for me, is to welcome all of you. It's going to be a journey, and I'm going to explain to you why that is the case, and you're going to see it. So for me, I'm excited about this journey. And allow me to just tell you that this is going to change your life. Please do not take it for granted. Your Sacco has invested quite heavily on this program, and it's only fair that you capitalize on it. You know, you'll come to understand as I start taking you through how controlled we are. You're not going to believe how controlled we are. We think, most of us think we're in control of our lives, but we are not. And you're going to see how this really turns out to affect even not just your personal finance, but it affects all areas of your life. But of course, I'm going to skew towards personal finance. I've been doing this for the last 4 years, and I can guarantee you with the fact that it's changing people's lives completely. If you look around, and there's so, I mean, as a Sacco, you've been calling consultants and trainers to come and train you during your members' education day. But how effective has that been? What real change can you show based on those trainings? And what is so interesting is that all Saccos are doing the same thing. You train members for a couple of days, and yet you're not seeing so much change in them. This is the uniqueness about your Sacco. It sat down, the board and the management sat down and asked itself, we've been doing this for so long, and we can't really see much change in this. Is there something that we can do different that can result to value addition to our members? And ladies and gentlemen, that's why I'm here. And I am guaranteeing you, please take this one seriously. I encourage you to have a pen and paper all the time we meet, because every episode is going to tackle something that if you think through and apply it in your life, I am assuring you it will never, ever be the same. So karibuni sana sana, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, members, for those who are still joining. We are about, say, 15 minutes into the session. Karibuni sana. Please feel free to type your questions on the chat when we get to that point. So thank you so much, Andrew, for the intro. Andrew, you could tell us part of your experience and your journey that led you to this space of helping people to improve their financial wellness. There must be a story behind. And while you're at it, you can also let us know, why do you think adults struggle financially? Why are we struggling financially? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Madam CEO, for those two very important questions. And just before I start tackling them, I want to request all members, please contact all others, because this is going to be very powerful. That one I assure you. Let them know that this is very different from what they used to. If you can text them, let them join in. If they're going to miss this one, make sure that no one is left behind from the next one, because today we're just giving an introduction. But from the next episode now, we'll start delving into the details of certain topics which are life transforming. So having said that, let me start with the first question, where you're inquiring about the journey and how I came to start all this. I'm going to answer that question in two phases. The first one, I'm going to share with you a story, not about me. And then the second one, I'm going to take you now through my own personal finance. And I want members to really listen to those two stories, because as I continue teaching you, empowering you going forward, I will be referring a lot to these two stories. And you'll start seeing the connections, and I'm sure you'll be able to relate a lot with these stories with your very own, okay? So the first one is about this young person who was very smart. And this person had never scored anything less than an A since he started schooling. So he was an A student throughout, from kindergarten, primary, high school. Now, at the time we were getting independence, he happened to have been in Form 4, okay? So he had gone to this school called Mangu High School. And as you can expect, our country is getting independence. So you have the British who are preparing to leave the country, which means then there is a lot of opportunities for those who've gone to school back then, because most of the jobs were being done by the British people and the Indians. So him being a very smart student, he really knew there was no way he was going to miss work as long as he continued passing the way he did. So fortunately or unfortunately, when we got independence, our first president, Jomo Kenyatta, decided to introduce A levels. That's Form 5 and 6. And it coincided with the year he was actually finishing. So his father asked him, "You've heard what the president has said, from next year we're starting A level. That means when you finish Form 4, you have to join Form 5 and 6. And as you can imagine, he was not a very happy boy about that. So automatically he said, "No, I am not going to do Form 5 and 6. And so it became a to and fro between him and the father. So as the discussion went on, the father, put his foot down and said, "No, you're going to proceed on with 5 and 6, whether you like it or not." And the son said, "No way. The British are leaving, the vacancies are there, and I know I'm going to get straight A's. So I know I'm going to get a job. So there's no way I'm going to do 5 and 6 when I can immediately start working." So that to and fro went on, and eventually the young man finished his Form 4, and as expected, he got straight A's. So the father told him, "Now you have a choice. You go to Form 5 or you leave the house." And so what the son did is he packed his things and he left up country and came all over to Nairobi. So within 3 weeks, he had found the first job and he was very excited about it. So as he started working, you have these British people who are leaving, and therefore the current government is trying to find Kenyans who can fill those positions. But unfortunately, most Kenyans were not educated at that particular point. So someone like him was very privileged. So what the government will do back then, it will look for smart students who had passed, and then they'll sponsor them to go do a certain course in preparation of bringing them to run now whether it's the corporate companies or anything like that. So at this particular point, the government had also identified that we didn't have pilots within this country. Back then, it was not Kenya Airways, it was called East Africa Airways. So they decided to advertise to sponsor 2 students to actually go abroad and learn how to fly, then bring them back to actually now replace the Indians and the British who are running those aircrafts. So this boy applied, and luckily enough, he got picked up, him and someone else. They were flown to a school called Perth, and they performed so well. However, this man performed extremely well to a point where he got a scholarship to advance more in the United States. So he moved from Britain after 1 year. The other boy whom they had gone with came back home straight away and started working for the government, the East Africa Airways. But now this boy was flown over to the United States to actually advance for another 1 year. And by the time he finished, when he came back, he had actually acquired enough hours to a point whereby when he came and joined East Africa Airways, he came and became a captain straight away. All right? I hope you can follow that. So he was so excited about that adventure that he was so excited to a point whereby he couldn't hide his joy. You know, he will tell his father, I told you, going from 5 and 6, I would have missed this opportunity and blah, blah, blah. So the interesting thing, and this is when I want you to start paying attention about this story. So in those 2 years where he was abroad, as you can imagine, when these aircrafts move from one country to another, everything is paid up. You go stay in a 5-star hotel. In the 5-star hotel, they do everything for you. You have your 3-course meal. You can eat as much as you want. They do laundry for you and everything. So he had gotten so used to that kind of lifestyle, such that when he got back home and got this very well-paying job, he started asking himself, why would I buy a house na nianze kuosha vyombo when I can afford to actually live in a 5-star hotel, even in Kenya, where everything can be done the same way as I fly outside? So guess what he did? He moved, for those of you who knew a hotel in Nairobi called Hilton, he moved in that hotel and he started living there. So at any given point, if he's not in the aircraft, he was actually in a 5-star hotel. And so when the father discovered about that, he really, really got angry. So he called the son, he tried to speak to him to put some sense and told him, you know, this is the wrong direction. And the son, as you can expect, as a teenager or just a young adult who's got a very good job, akamwambia, si wewe ulinifukuza kwako because I made the decision to come to Nairobi. This is my money, usiniambie kitu yoyote. And so that to and fro went on. Now, unlucky or lucky for this young man, the father was a DO, district officer back then, and they were very, very powerful people. So it turns out that the father had a direct link connection to our first president. So what did he do? He called the first president seeking a favor. What was the favor? He told him, you know, I have this son of mine who was sponsored to go and study this. He's come back now, he's living in a 5-star hotel and anapotea. Akaulizwa, so what do you want me to do? So the father said, what I want you to do is, I want you to influence such that half of the salary that comes through goes to buy 2 houses I've identified somewhere as mortgage. He said, okay, fine. So a phone call was made from State House to the CEO of KCB Bank and instructions were given. So the son was called over by the CEO and he was told, you know what, you have to sign these papers. What are they for? They're for mortgages for 2 houses in certain places. And failure to do this, well, your job is going to go. So the son had no choice but to sign those papers. And he really got angry at the father. You know, he ambushed the father, I know, and stated, Mercy, please mute on your end. Hello, please mute on your end. So he really got angry and went after the father. And the father told him, you do whatever you want to. One day you're going to come and thank me. Sasa ile kiburi ya kijana, he realized that the money was squeezed enough for him not to be able to afford staying at a 5-star hotel, which is Hilton. So what did he do? He downgraded from 5-star to 3-star. Akatafuta hoteli Isili. I'm told back then in Isili, it was a very good place with nice hotels. So he goes there, he gets a 3-star and he starts living there. What does the father do? Discovers the same thing. He says, no way. So he repeats the process, but this time he gets one house and 10 acres of land, of which 5 coffee is planted and 5 tea is planted. Then the father tells him, now, as long as these ones are there, you do whatever you want to do with your money. One day you're going to come and thank me. So the son was squeezed so much in terms of the income he used to receive that he had no choice than to move into one of those houses. All right? So the story, why am I sharing this story with you? I'm sharing this story with you because now I happen to sit down with this man right now. He's retired, very old, and he was giving me this story. And this is what he told me. And I want you to pay attention to these words that came out of his mouth. He told me, if it was not my father today, I would have been depending on my pensions and upkeep from my children. If it wasn't of my father, today I would have been depending on my pension and upkeep from my children. And when you really think about that statement, ask yourself if you can relate to that. This is someone who has been paid very, very, very well, but is confessing to me that had his father done that, today he will have been relying on pension and upkeep from his children. I really want you to digest that story. Now here comes the bombshell about that story. This boy or this old man that I'm talking to you about, this man is actually my father. Okay? The man I'm talking about is my father. So when I decided to leave employment and I told him what I'm going to do, and I told him about the things I've discovered about personal finance and why most Africans are struggling financially, he really sat down and looked back in his life, and he blessed me and told me, I've spent millions with you, educating you, but I think what you're doing is far, far important than those degrees that you got. So that's when he actually told me this story, because he could relate about a lot of people who are employed who will end up at the same position. And unfortunately for them, they do not have a father who was as strict as his father, who is my grandfather. And as he looked around the people who he retired with, he could see a lot of them suffering because their parents were not as strict as my grandfather was. So now the question out of that becomes, why is it that people can end up having very good jobs, but at retirement, they end up struggling? I want you to think about or look where you come from, and I want you to pick about those people who had very prime jobs during their peaks and look at their life today. How many of them are actually financially stable? And you'll realize that most of them are not. So the question is, why? They came and taught us that if we go to school and get these jobs and we save for our pensions and all that, then we're going to have a beautiful retirement life. Is that the reality on the ground? Members of Telepost? So when you hear Madam CEO saying, most people say they'll rather bury their head inside the sand than face the reality, you do that. But when the reality hits you, it's not going to spare you. And so we've been doing this for years and years and years. My father is about to turn 80 years old. And yet he can relate when he looks back with what I'm trying to do. So when you're working, there's this belief system that has been lied into your mind, but you do not know that you're safe. You're not safe. And this is why now we need to approach this program of empowering you differently from the way it has been done before, because even though it's been done before, it's not producing the results people are expecting. There's just something that we are missing out. And ladies and gentlemen, that is why this program is so powerful, because somehow God gifted me that enlightenment to actually realize what the missing piece is. And that piece is just something you just teach for 2 hours and people get it. It's a process. And that's why we're extending this period for you to actually appreciate where this is heading. And that's why I told you to take it very seriously, because we're going to deal with 3 things mainly. And I'm going to tap on that just before we wind up today. So that's the introduction part, Madam Miriam. I wanted to share about my father's story with that. Then now I bring mine, because they are so much connected. So I'm coming to your second question. Now, what about me? Now, this is the interesting thing. And at this point, I want all members to understand that personal finance wellness has nothing to do with physical assets, kama pesa, sijui shamba, sijui shares. Those are just secondary. The main thing as to why people are struggling financially is called the mindset. And we're also going to address that. So as we start this point, I'll keep mentioning the word mindset until you get it, because that is where we go wrong. So for example, take my father, very well-paying job, but he had the wrong mindset. It forced my father to fix certain things for his future. If my grandfather did not do that, because my dad had the wrong mindset around money, then after retirement, the money will have stopped coming in. And therefore, that's what you're saying, you'll have ended up relying on me or my brothers or the pension. It is extremely true and powerful. All right? So let me show you now the mindset by giving you my story. So initially, I said that I went to a primary school. Now, that primary school was a Kenyan, I did 844, and it is located in a place called Makadara in Eastlands. So it's more of a ghetto. And guess what? I was surrounded by students who come from Makadara. And I'm not going to lie to you. The kind of talks we used to talk or used to hear them talk about were mainly either becoming a tout. They used to talk a lot about touts, makanga. Secondly, they used to talk a lot about thieves, because, you know, within the ghetto, because of the rough life, the teens or the teenagers or the young adults, most of them were thieves. So someone would come and give us a story about how one of these thieves was chased and he ran and he jumped, and you know, it would become like a movie in your mind until you start envying that kind of a lifestyle. And trust me, by the time I was finishing class 8, I was actually thinking about those two in terms of my profession going forward. So as I sat down and really did my analysis, I felt being a thief, I was risking a lot, because I'd heard of a number of them had been shot. So I'd made up my mind, despite my father being a pilot, I had made up my mind that I wanted to be a makanga. My father was very absent in my childhood, flying around, moving around and all that. So that influence where I grew up within Makadara started getting into my mind to a point where it controlled me to aspire to become a makanga, despite having a father who's very successful. All right. Now, as I finished that one, he sent me to a British school called Laser Hill in Ongatongai, where I did my O levels. Now, at O levels, I was surrounded by a lot of Tanzanians. Most of them were Arabs. And the parents of these Arabs were business people. You know, when you used to hear things like Ba Yusuf and Sons, those who remember, trucks that will move from around East Africa and all that. And what used to surprise me is that most of these Arabs' parents were not educated. They had not gone to school. Yet they had a lot of wealth. I would sit down and laugh at these Tanzanians because they couldn't speak English. Yet, in terms of wealth and money, that was just not a question to discuss with them. They were way far from where I came from. And so deep inside, it used to bother me. How is it that these people are not educated, but they have a lot of wealth? And where was I getting this thought? It's the same way I was taught. Enda shule, upite, ufanye kazi, upate pesa. So that had been ingrained in my mind. And I was wondering, if these people never went to school, then how come they're successful? And so I'll just tell myself, ni uchawi. You know, you don't realize that particular point, but you just don't accept the reality, because that's what you've been groomed. Your mind has been programmed to believe that that's the way it's supposed to be. So that went on until I finished. I remember there's this friend of mine I used to school called Arafat. And Arafat used to... Sebit, please mute on your end. Hello? Please mute on your... Thank you. So what would happen is Arafat will actually pay me. That is 1997. He used to give me 5,000 Kenya shillings just to link for him answers for mathematics. In 1997, he will pay me just to link, to give him some, because I was very good at mathematics. So I'll pass him the answers, and for him, he just wanted to get 50% and above. So when we finished, I went to A-levels. A-levels, I was taken to a school called Aga Khan Academy. So 98% were Indians. And I can tell you it was a shock of my life. I felt like I'd been dropped in a new world within Kenya, or a Kenya within Kenya. My thinking patterns were so different from these Indians. These people just discuss businesses, investments, and I was there busy talking about partying and things like those ones. And it took me a long time to actually start getting along with them. So I used to keep to myself a lot. I remember when we've been introduced to accounting, because I took accounting at A-levels. For those of you who've done it, you'll realize we start with the ledgers. As I'm struggling to understand what ledgers are, my friends in the same class are discussing about balance sheet. They're already talking about how to balance the books. And so it really intimidated me to a point where I started failing. I felt so useless, and it affected me. I actually failed Form 5. In Form 6 is when my brother came to my rescue, because he understood the psychology of the mind that was taking on through me. So he got other teachers to come and help me, private tuitions and things like those ones. And eventually I managed to bring myself up, and I managed to pass. So when I passed, I went to Scotland, where I did my first degree. Of course, there I met a lot of people from different countries, from different backgrounds. And that interaction is just mind-blowing to see the different types of where people come from. Sebit, please mute on your end. Tunaomba mute pandenyu tafadhali. So in South Africa, after I came back to Kenya now, having worked in South Africa a little bit, came back here, went to Dubai, worked there. A lot of interesting things started to happen now. So the first place I worked was for pension, where I was doing what we call the actuarial valuations. So this gave me wind of data to see how much people retire with. And to be honest with you, I started getting surprised. I could not imagine that people retire with so much small amount of money. And I'll sit down and actually ask my bosses, how do they survive? And my boss will tell me, well, that's the reality of life. And I'll tell them, then why are we told to study so hard, to do all this, then end up getting so much little? It just didn't make sense to me. And at that particular point, I used to assume probably they have side hustles or investments like I used to see my father has. So I moved from there, went to insurance. Insurance opened my mind in terms of how we relate with what we call risk management. So we are so squeezed to a point whereby if you're told to take an insurance cover, you see that as a bother. You see that as a waste of money because you prefer that money going somewhere else. I've known so many people who say they're not going to take health insurance cover, not because they cannot afford, because when you see them going outside, they spend a lot of money drinking. And that is money they could have used easily to get a very good cover for their family. And then the worst happens. An accident occurs to one of the family members. The next thing, they're forming a WhatsApp group, asking for fundraising and all that. So in experience of insurance, that's what really opened my mind in terms of the topics we'll be covering of personal finance wellness. And then I moved on to banking. So at banking, what was so interesting for me was I realized that the profession who are the worst people in terms of managing their own money are actually bankers. And when this truth hit me, I remembered since I was a young boy that anytime, a company wanted to empower its employees financially, or any group that wanted to be empowered financially, they'll think of calling bankers. So you're calling people who are very poor in managing their own money to actually empower you. How is that even going to be benefit? What value are you going to derive out of that? As I'm speaking to you right now, Safaricom is in partnership with Standard Chartered Bank. So they have this long-term plan whereby Standard Chartered actually empowers the employees of Safaricom in terms of personal finance or financial literacy. So the question I want you to ask yourself is this: do you think Standard Chartered is going to teach or empower the staff of Safaricom with things like investing in shares, investing, let's say, in farming, what we call informal? They're not going to do that. Why? Because their interest is to get the employees to bring them more money. They want to reap from the salaries which are coming through for the Safaricom employees. So they're going to focus on the importance of savings, the importance of opening up a current account, fixed account. So they're just only going to teach or focus on the products within the bank, but they're not going to tell you about all these other things which they don't do, yet that is where the money is. So the reason I'm telling you this is I go back to the mindset. People still believe that bringing bankers to teach you is going to empower you. No, those people are limited in terms of the understanding even what investment is. So when I discovered this, I saw how bad people are behaving around their money in banking. I was not surprised. So I did some research and I realized the reason why that is the case, it's because bankers can access money very easily. The privileges you get working in a bank are very high. So your mind starts lying to you that that bank is yours. Because anytime you need money, you can easily get it. So it becomes a cycle. And the time you come out of that industry is when your reality hits you. And for those of you who know bankers who've retired, just study their lifestyles and you're going to agree with what I'm telling you. So from there, I went to CRB. Of course, CRB now I got to understand how we behave with borrowed money. And it is just shocking. It is just shocking and really, really depressing to see how we behave around money that we borrow. This is money, as you're going to see, and I'm going to empower you. This is the best platform of getting access to money that can make your life become so easy. You can easily attain financial freedom with borrowed money. But the issue is most people do not use those money for the right purpose. And it's not their fault. I'm not faulting anyone, by the way. I understand why that is the case. And as I start this program, from the next class, you're going to start seeing how this thing was designed to control where you are. It's like we all put in a box and you have these people who are just pulling strings on us. It's all going to come out very clearly. So when I talk about borrowing, we're going to look at what we call two types of borrowing. So it's what we call the good borrowing and bad borrowing. And because Sacco is very powerful as a member base when it comes to borrowing. We are going to study how to use the art of good borrowing to make money work for you, not you work for money. Take that difference. We want you to stop working for money and the money should start working for you. One of the best and easiest way to do that is through borrowed money. So we are going to come to that. Then finally, I was privileged to work at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Basically, this one now opened my mind in terms of how we behave when it comes to investments. Now, I'm just going to hint at you here that we are so conditioned in our minds to a point whereby when you think about investments, you don't realize that you think within a certain box called the formal investments. Why is that? It's because throughout your life as you're growing up, anytime people talk about investments, they just mention certain things. You hear about bonds, you hear about shares, money markets, capital markets around there. So since that has been repeated so many years as you're growing up, when you think of investments, you start thinking around that. But guess what? There's another aspect which was hid from you, and that is called informal investments. Farming falls under informal investments. And trust me, the money is found in the informal investments, not formal. And when we get to that topic of investments, I'm going to break this thing down for you, and you're going to see exactly this control that I am talking about. All right. So that answers the first question that Madam CEO asked me. Now, the second one, which is very interesting, he told me, why do you think a lot of adults struggle financially? Now, this is a very interesting one. And the way I'm going to approach this answer is I'm going to use the scripture, the book of Hosea 4, chapter 6. The scripture tells us that my people perish for lack of knowledge. I have never come across such a powerful statement like that. We just read it, but we are going to break it down from now going forward until you're going to appreciate why I'm saying it's the most powerful statement I've ever heard. Now, I want to share something with you here. Before now I get to explain why I'm saying that. When you think of the word knowledge here, okay? There's something that we miss that is very deep in the scripture. Knowledge is divided into two parts. Okay? There's what I'm going to call the right knowledge, and there's what I'm going to call the wrong knowledge. Take note of that. When we talk of knowledge, I want you to understand from now going forward that there are two types of knowledge. The first one, I'm calling it the right knowledge, and the second one, I'm calling it the wrong knowledge. So let's break it down this way. There are these people who are known to, enter into, let's say, a mall or a packed up place, and they have bombs hidden within themselves, and they blow themselves up with everyone around them. I'm sure scared. The question here is, do they just wake up one day and decide to perform that act? Kuna mtu anaweza amka tu hivi amuende kwa mall na lipue watu? Of course, the answer is no. So what happens? What happens is, it means these people were given a dosage of a certain knowledge initially, which was passed over and over and over. It was repeated to them over and over. They started digesting it over and over and over. And the more it sank in and in and in, it started becoming a belief that this act, doing this act is actually the right thing for me. it's the right thing for me to do. So to a point where that person lives in the morning, knowing very well he's not going to come back, he's coming from a point of knowledge. He just doesn't wake up and, go perform that. He's coming from a point of knowledge. So the question becomes, this knowledge that these people have, which makes them commit such actions, you and I, the question becomes, is it the right knowledge or is it the wrong knowledge? So we know very well, God did not create me and you to kill each other. Killing, whether you're a religious or not religion, we all know deep inside it's not the right thing to do. Okay? So you and I know that that act is coming from the wrong knowledge. Okay? So now, why am I emphasizing breaking down this knowledge in two parts? It's because I want you to distinguish when the scripture is telling us that my people perish for lack of knowledge. Specifically, the Bible is telling us my people perish because they lack this right knowledge. If we could have a way of adjusting it, we will say the right knowledge. So we perish because we miss the right knowledge. It's not that we don't have the knowledge. The problem is we have the wrong knowledge. We are acting on the wrong knowledge. And that's why we are perishing. Okay? Take the example of the unfortunate things we saw at the beginning of this year in Kilifi. Those people believed what they were being told was the right knowledge. But you and I know very well in Shakahola, that was the wrong knowledge that was being placed to them. But it got into them over and over and over until people traveled from all parts of the country to actually go starve to death. So when you hear my people perish for lack of knowledge, it is so true. It's just not knowledge. It's the right knowledge. Because these people were coming from a wrong knowledge point of view. And eventually they perished. So here's the thing. You might not know the kind of knowledge that you have. And the fact that all of us, from my dad's point of view, to this day, we have been doing the same thing, following the same teachings around money, and nothing is changing, that's a pointer towards that the knowledge we've been given is wrong. There's a scientist called Albert Einstein who defines insanity as doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So for generation, we have been doing the same thing over and over and over. We are continuing to do the same thing, teaching the same way. You're bringing a consultant here to teach you for one day. Nothing is changing. Next year, do the same thing. Nothing is changing. The third year, over and over, somehow we expect miracles are going to happen. That is insanity. It's never going to work. So this is just a pointer to tell you that, no, we need to step back and ask ourselves, where are we going wrong? And that's what your circle has done. Wameka breki, wakasema hapana. We need to rethink this thing again, which is the best thing they've done. Okay? So from where we are now, the point now becomes we need to differentiate what we're calling the right knowledge against the wrong knowledge. That is where now our focus should be, because the scripture have told us where the reason why we perish. So now we are saying it's because we've been having the wrong knowledge. And that is why this program is very different from, please, whoever is writing on the board, stop. So the idea here is we want to approach this thing in a very different way, okay? So understand the first reason why people are perishing, or why a lot of people are struggling financially, it's because they have the wrong knowledge, okay? Now that wrong knowledge, I am going to equate it to a program. I'm going to call that wrong knowledge the wrong programs. The wrong programs means the wrong mindset. Okay? Now, let me expand this to you a bit. Now, assume I come with a piece of paper, okay? Like this book here. And this book has a lot of numbers. You know, I probably have the first 10 pages has numbers, okay? I give you this book, and then I tell you, Kimiru, please mute on your end. Thank you. And then Kimiru, please mute. So I come to you, and then I come with a laptop, and I open a Word document. So nimekufungulia Word document kwa laptop, alafu hapa kando nimekupatia a paper full of numbers, and then I tell you, I want you to perform analysis of this number on this Word document, and then give me your conclusions. Okay? So you start. How far do you think you're going to go? Nimekufungulia Word, which is supposed to be for writing letters or words, but I'm asking you to perform numbers on it. My friend, you'll work so hard. You'll work so hard. You will struggle. You'll struggle. Now, if I come to you and ask you, how far have you gone? I can see you've done a lot of things. Are you making any progress? Nikwambia, I think I need to get you to learn some more. I need to empower you with another course. So I take you to advanced or intermediary Word. Nikutafutia walimu waendelee kufunza hapo. Then you come back, you'll continue struggling. Nikupeleke advance. No matter how many courses I take you forward, you're not going to go too far. And why is that? The reason is very simple. It's because you are using the wrong program. Okay? Because you're using the wrong program and you do not know that you're using the wrong program, you will struggle there. You'll work so hard trying to balance these numbers or do analysis on them. For you, you believe this is the right. You're not even aware that I've given you the wrong program. So you just put all your effort in and out, in and out, in and out. But eventually, you're not going to get far with it. Ladies and gentlemen, that is exactly what I'm talking about. Since we were born, since we were kids, without you realizing, Word document was instilled in your mind with the expectation that in the future, you're going to attain financial freedom, which is numbers. So you go through this system of schooling and getting employed and everything. Then you come out here and you work so hard. You work so hard from 20-something until the point you're retiring. And at the end of retiring, you have nothing to show. Why? It's because you didn't realize that what was instilled in you was the Word document. So these courses you keep going for financial literacy and all those ones are those courses I was talking about trying to advance you in Word document. So what should we do at this point? So we need to step back and say, hey, it's not working. It's not been working on my father's generation. It's not working in mine, and it will never work in any other. So we cannot keep coming up with more courses about Word and expect at some point it's going. That's insanity. So common sense will tell us we need to step back and look at where the problem is. Once we identify the problem, oh, it's the wrong program you're using. What are we supposed to do? Forward, remove, and install it. So which is the right word, which is the right program you're supposed to use to get financial freedom, to work with numbers? It's Excel. So you remove Word, you instill Excel, and once you instill Excel, you're not going to struggle. You just put your numbers there, learn a basic things here and there, and out come the results that we're looking for. So now, the reason why a lot of people are struggling financially, it's because they have the wrong programs around money. That's why I told you from the word go that personal finance has nothing to do with physical asset. It has everything to do with the programs which are running in your mind. And unfortunately, The way the system is structured, it's structured to instill Word document in your mind from the moment you are born. Even before you join school, it has already started being shaped, but you're not aware of it. And so as we start this program and move forward, I'll start opening that to you for you to realize. You know? For instance, why did they tell you that teaching your children about money is something wrong? How is it that teaching my children about money wrong, yet money is something you need for life? If I don't teach them and our schools don't teach them, where are they supposed to learn it from? Just ask yourself those questions and you'll start seeing what I'm talking about. Okay? So we are saying here, the reason is because we are programmed with the wrong programs, the wrong mindset around money. If you get your mindset right, if you get the right mindset in you, money will start following you. Here's an example I like giving. Assume I bring a cart to where you are. Paka, Alafu niweke hapo chini nikwambie fukuza hiyo paka. Ama nikwambie the only way you're going to catch this cart, ile njia tu unaweza tumia kushika hiyo paka ni kuifukuza. Nikwambie uko ready, anza kuifukuza. Uanze kuikimbiza. Ukimbizana nayo, ukichoka na kuletea maji, maybe some food, nakwambia pumzika, kula. Once you regain your energy, nikwambia endelea kufukuza, unafukuza tena hivyo hivyo. Ukichoka, we keep repeating that process. What is the likelihood of you catching that cat? The chances are very, very slim. That is exactly how we were told. That is exactly the programs which were instilled in us. This cat refers to money. We were programmed to chase after it. That's why ulienda primary, ukienda high school, ukienda university, ukafanya kazi, you're running after it. Tukifika December, ni wakati na kupatia maji. Like now in the next 2 weeks, kila mtu atakuwa na kupumzika kunywa maji na chakula. You're resting now. Because you've been running the whole year. What do you have to show? Umeshika hiyo paka? Haya, upumzike tuingie January, tena tuanze kukimbizana nayo. Before you know it, you're aging. Before you know it, it's retirement. And you have nothing to show. So you look back and ask yourself, was it even worth it? Why? Because you are programmed to run after it. So what this program is going to do, by the time when you're finishing it, will tell you to stop running after that cat. Stop. Think. Let's remove these wrong programs and let's put the right program. The right programs are what? What can I do to make this cat come to where I am instead of me chasing after it? It makes sense if I can figure a way of how I can make this cat to come where I am. So once you start questioning yourself, unajiuliza naweza fanya nini? Paka inapenda maziwa. Paka inapenda samaki. Oh, so nikinunua samaki na maziwa niweke hapa, hata nitasonga. Paka itajileta yenyewe na itakuja peke yake, itakuja na zingine. So we want to shift the programs of running after this cat, which is money, and instill the programs of bringing these cats to drink this milk. We want to attract money to where we are. We want to make money work for us, not us working for money. That is the change, because the system is designed to make you run after the money, work for money. Now we want to reverse that and do it the opposite. So money should start working for us, coming for us. Okay? So that is so powerful, and I hope you can appreciate what I've answered in terms of those 2 questions. And I want to repeat again, please invite next your members, because missing this is going to be a very sad situation. So Madam CEO, I hope I've answered your question in depth in a way that it can be appreciated by your members. Over to you.
Wow, thank you so much, Andrew. Members, let's keep joining. Please don't drop. Do your best to keep on the line so that we are moving together. So Andrew, we are hearing what you're saying, and I've been privileged to attend at least 2 of these kind of introductions. So today is majorly a big teaser. You've said that we think we are in control, but we are most probably not. There are strings being pulled. There's a structure, there's a system that is unseen to the probably natural eye, but it's working its thing. And we can see it because my grandfather went through the same cycle, my dad went through the same cycle, I am probably going through the same cycle, and I am probably unaware of it. Please expound more about the unseen system, structure, strings.
Okay. All right, thank you. So what I'll do here is I'll just give an introduction. That is something I'm going to delve deep so that your members are able to really get to understand that. But simply put, when I left my last place of work at NSC, I decided first to conduct a bit of research. I wanted to find out how the retirees were faring on in terms of their finances. And I did not want to believe any data in Google because I know a lot of people set up NGOs in the name of doing all these things and they just cook up data. I wanted my own data, which I could verify. So I traveled in 3 counties and I was a bit biased because I specifically targeted the retirees who had prime jobs, okay? So you're talking about doctors, pilots, and the likes of all that. To my surprise, Madam CEO, over 95% of them are heavily relying on pension and upkeep from their children. Can you relate that with what my father told me? So my father told me, if it was not of your grandfather, I would have been relying on pension and upkeep from you guys. So my father will have been part of this bracket. So over 95% of them are relying on these two. And so as I talked to them, trying to find out exactly what went wrong, there are 2 key things that came out. Number one, they lacked the right knowledge. I've talked about it. So they're realizing at retirement. Number 2, they lacked the needed experience. So whether it's doing some small business at home or investments, they lacked those 2 things. And for them, it was water under the bridge. There's nothing they could do because, for them, they felt time was up, which is also wrong because time is never up. So what they kept emphasizing on was us, the working nation, whom they referred to as our children. So they'll tell me, Andrew, we are trying to warn you people who are working, our children. We can see you walking in the same path we walked. And we can see exactly where you're going to end up. In fact, yours is going to be worse because of how life is changing. Sisi wa Afrika tumezoea kukatakatia watoto mashamba. We are not programmed to build our own. We are programmed just to think of inheritance. Sasa mashamba zinakuwa ndogo. So they are projecting and they're seeing, at least for them, they had land they could sell and give some to the person, to the children. So they imagine us getting there and we don't have any land. And so they try to advise us or to warn us, but according to them, we are not paying attention. We're not listening to them. And so they keep trying to tell us, they keep trying to a point where now wanachoka, wanatuachia Mwenyezi Mungu. Okay? So that was the first part of the research that I did. Now, the second one, I actually came to the working nation. And in this working nation, there are 2 questions that I asked. This is the second research. And I want every member to actually ask yourself these 2 questions. Yeah? Number 1, the question is, given the knowledge you have today about personal finance, if you had that knowledge before you started working, how different do you think your life will be today? I'm going to repeat that question. Given the knowledge you have today about personal finance, if you had that knowledge before you started working, how different do you think your life will have been today? And 100% of the samples that we asked, all of them said we will have been very far, not just far, but very far. Some of them actually will zoom out. Unaona mtu yani akili imeenda mbali. mpaka unamfanyia hivi, tuko pamoja, anarudi tena. It points out to a regret, or I really wish I had that knowledge, you know? And that's me and you, most of us who are currently working right now. So now that triggered the second question where I asked them, and given that you have learned whatever it is you have learned, the knowledge that you have today with you, what is it that you have done or have you ever done to ensure that your children gain that same knowledge before they start working? And this is where now we discovered something was just not adding up. This was the blessing that actually broke this thing for us to realize the truth that has been kept away, what you're calling the unseen, because 93% of people could not answer that question. Wengine walikuwa wananiambia, that's why tunawapeleka shule. Alafu mimi naulizaje, kama you're taking them to school as a reason for them to understand this knowledge, you yourself, you went to school. How come you didn't get that knowledge? Unaona amekwama. You know, we are so programmed to listen to answer instead of listening to understand. Two different things. So the idea that 93% could not answer that question did not sit well with me. So lucky enough for me, part of what I studied was psychology around trading. And when I studied that subject, it brought a lot of interest of understanding how the mind works. So I decided now to take a full course to understand more about how the mind works. And that's when God brought this truth to me. So I realized that we have been conditioned so much, because imagine yourself, as parents, we all love our children, don't we? And we want the best for them. We wouldn't like them to go through the struggles we have gone in this life. So financial struggles is one of the things that most parents face in their lives. And no parent would like their children to go through those struggles. So naturally, you'll expect the parents who are regretting, wishing they had that knowledge before they started working, to ensure that their kids gain that knowledge, because if they don't get that knowledge, then they will go through the same experience as their parents. So the fact that 93% cannot answer why, it tells it has to do with psychology. And so most of them will think like, well, by the way, why haven't I ever thought of it that way? So that became the conversation. And that's when we came to realize that psychology was at play here. And so as we delved inside, we realized that this is a 3-generation problem, which I'm going to define to you here. So we have the retirees who are here as the first generation. We have the working generation as the second generation. And then we have the children here who are the third generation. So this is first. This is the second generation. This is the third generation. So the retirees here are regretting. They did not have the right knowledge. They did not have the right experience. But to them, it's water under the bridge. So that's what they're meant to believe. So they think the best thing they can do is to warn us not to make the same mistakes here. But we are not paying attention to what they're telling us. Okay? At the same time, we here are regretting why we never had the knowledge we have today before we started working. But despite that regret, we are not doing anything to ensure that these children of ours gain it. So it becomes a 3-generation problem, passed on from one to the next. So our children are going to grow and become the working nation. And we, the working nation, are going to become the retirees. And our children here are going to have our children. So we are passing this problem or this cycle from one generation to the next. This is where the definition of insanity comes in. How do you expect this cycle is going to be broken if we continue doing the same thing over and over again? So logic will tell you The only way then we'll be able to counter this, we must cut this cycle. And the best way to do that is to ensure that our children from this moment start getting empowered. Because the Bible is telling us, my people perish for lack of knowledge. So who lied to us? Who lied to our forefathers that it is wrong to teach children about money? The Bible is telling us lack of right knowledge is what is destroying us. So why are they telling us not to pass the right knowledge or the knowledge about money to our children? This is the unseen I'm talking about. So we follow the system blindly, believing it's going to work. But we have evidence of generation that eventually people end up struggling financially at retirement. So we have to be bold enough and remove our heads from the sand and say, no, we have to break this cycle because we can't continue doing the same thing over and over. For us to get different results, we have to do something differently. And it starts by us empowering our children here. It starts by us saying the way we've been approaching it is wrong. So you and I have that responsibility of saying we are the last generation that is going to go through this. From every other one coming below us, it's going to be different. And just to point out that for you to understand the depth around this one, I want you to look at the communities that engage their children in their businesses and investments. So I'm talking about India, Somali, the Jews. Look where they are and look where we are. It's a reality we have to face and come up with ways of how we are going to counter this. So as I studied this, I realized that I came up with this formula. Now, let me give you a quick example here. Is it possible for me to walk outside here and pick a young person at the age of 20 and I take them to a football pitch and I train them for, let's say, 5 days? So from morning to evening, tuko kiwanjani tukitrain mpira. And then on Friday, niwaingize ndege, British Airways niwapeleke Britain, nimuingize kwa a top, football league like Premier League. Niwaingize Manchester United or Chelsea, whatever it is. Will they be able to perform? They won't be able to perform. Why? Number one, they don't have enough experience. So here we are saying that for you to be able to be good in any skill, you require, number one, knowledge, and it has to be the right knowledge, okay? And they also require what we call the right experience. These two are very key. But before you get the right knowledge, there's something very important behind here. It's called having the right mindset. We have seen footballers who are they have the wrong attitude and they always end up losing. So this is the formula we came up with. We call it the Dreamer's Formula for Financial Freedom or Building Wealth. So this formula is made up of 3 parts: 1, 2, 3. And they follow each other in the following order. So the first thing is to make sure that you develop the right mindset. If you have the wrong mindset, you are done. Upende usipende, you are done. Utafukuza hiyo paka maisha yako yote. You'll work on that word document mpaka uchoke maisha yako yote. Okay? Now, once you get the right mindset, we move on to the right knowledge. I've told you there's a difference between right knowledge and wrong knowledge. So we need to identify which works for you, not other people. And then once you get the right knowledge, we require you to practice. And that practice makes perfect. Once you specialize in these 3, you will never experience financial struggles. That I promise you. It does not matter how old you are. It does not matter whether you're educated or not. It does not matter whether you're financially stable now or not. Maliuko, this is the starting point. And if you follow this formula, it will only get better. That one, I assure you 100%. Now, this is something I want you to take note of. In these 3 components, this first one plays 80% of the entire skill. This one we can attribute to 10, okay? And this 10%. So these three components, pamoja, is what builds up what we're calling a skill. Now remember, football is a skill, but money management is just not a skill. It is a life skill. Why do we call it a life skill? It's because money is a tool you need for life. Just like communication. Communication is a tool you need for life. Sasa nikigongwa na gari hapa nje, nishindwe kuzungumza, I cannot function in this society. I need to learn sign language. So because communication is something you cannot do without in this society, we call it a life skill because you need it for life. So money is also a tool you need for life. You can't function in this society without money. So managing it automatically becomes a life skill. So it is so interesting. I approach parents and I tell them, I have these programs I'm running for children. Will you be interested in introducing your children to learn about the art of managing money? Napata jibu kama, mtoto wangu anapenda football sana. That's how controlled the parent is. He is talking about a skill ambayo mtoto wake, chances are 90% he'll never use it. But here I'm giving him the opportunity to learn these things from a very young age, but he's so conditioned not to see with those unseen forces. He's telling me, wacha fanya music. So we need to come out of this sand where we are and face the reality. Now pay attention to this. I've told you the first part is 80%. Why? Because I told you everything is mindset. It does not matter, nothing else matters. It's about the programs running here. That is why someone like my dad, even after earning all that money, if it wasn't my grandfather, he would have been struggling. Why? Because they have the wrong mindset. We hear of people who've won lottery. We have celebrities who are making a lot of money during their peak. And then after the peak, they start struggling financially. Alafu tunajiuliza, aje na vile walikuwa watengeneza pesa mingi. That's why I'm telling you, it has nothing to do with the physical money. It has everything to do with your mindset. So the moment you get this right, everything else is going to fall into place. Okay? Now, look at this one. Think about all consultants you've had in the past. Think about all the programs you've had about financial literacy. Of these three components, which one do they deal with? So you join these programs and they come and tell you, we are going to educate you. They focus on knowledge. They teach you how to budget. They teach you about all these things, how to save and all that. That's knowledge. And remember, we are assuming that that knowledge is the right knowledge, of which much of it is not. And it's not their fault. This is what I'm saying now, the unseen, which is being hidden from people, is this. And this is where the problem really is. That's why you attend all those courses you attend. That's why every year you bring someone who teaches you all these things and nothing is changing, because you're only dealing with this 10% here. You're not addressing the mindset. So this mindset is the Word document I was talking about. So every year you're bringing new people to teach you. It's like new courses around the Word. You're not addressing the main problem. And I'm not blaming or faulting those consultants, because they too do not understand this. It took me years and those experiences I was talking about. So this explains to you why in primary school I wanted to be a thief. I was surrounded with people who conditioned my mind to choose the option between being a thief and being a makanga. When I went to high school, I started using excuses of, witchcraft, that these Arabs are using witchcraft, because my mindset was lied to that if I go to school and pass and go, I'm going to have a better life than them. But now I understand, these children were raised up with entrepreneurs, so they were learning these things. The mindset was taught to be entrepreneurs. That's why Arafat, the moment we finished Form 4, he was given a truck by his father. Within 2 years, when I was leaving the country, he was calling me to offer me a job. And I got so angry at that because I was conditioned to believe nikiendelea na hii masomo yangu. I remember there's a song I used to listen every morning before going to school in primary. It used to go something like, someni vijana, muongeze pia bidii, mwisho wa kusoma, mtapata kazi nzuri sana. That used to work back then. Siku hizi things have changed. And if you're stuck with that philosophy, you are controlled, you're going to pass that philosophy to your children. Ndio maana mnauza mashamba, and I'm not faulting you, it's just that you have the wrong knowledge. Mnauza mashamba, mpeleke watoto wenyu wakasome courses which have no demand. So you take your children to spend 4 years in colleges to study useless things which they can't get even employment huku nje. Then they come outside here and there's no demand. So they tarmac, you as a parent, you start getting frustrated. Unaanza kusema, I did my best, mtoto wangu alienda Nairobi, siku hizi nisaidii. Life has changed. And all this is because we're having the wrong programs. We are perishing because we have the wrong knowledge. We are perishing because we have the wrong programs running in your minds. So the art of approaching this program that we're doing with your Sacco is, we are going to start with hapa. Tutoe your word, tuweke Excel. Tukimalizana na hapo, we tick this first part. Now we go to the right knowledge. And there are certain topics I'm going to pick because what they teach you outside there is not supposed to work for you first. It's supposed to work for third parties before you. So I'm going to reverse that and teach you things which are going to work for you first. And then eventually I'm going to show you how this Sacco is going to enable you to reach the point you want to reach. And that is going to come through this last part called the right practice. So that's the approach we are going to use. All right. So remember, these unseen forces, if you're not aware they're there, you become a victim. So you find people who've gone for courses, unakutana nao nakwambia, I finished this program, it was so good. We learned about bonds. You know, you do this, you come up with all these terms and you speak and you sound very educated. Guess what? You're just being given the knowledge. Fast forward 5 years down the line or 2 years down the line, your life is still the same. Why hasn't it changed? It's because no one was addressing the main issue, which is this. So this is what we really need to focus on. And once we get this right, you're going to start seeing a change. And that is a promise I'm making to you. All right? Over to you, Madam CEO.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. I know I can see members are actually still joining as much as we are almost getting to the top of the hour. Thank you so much, Andrew. We are getting it, and we are getting challenged. There are questions in our mind. And maybe at this point, Andrew, you can tell us, after getting what we are getting, we are trying to process. What is the end game? What's the expected outcome for our dear members who are joining here today and those that we know will join more in the next session? Yes, Andrew.
Okay. Yeah. So the end game basically boils down to what you can see on your screen. The first and most important is getting the right mindset. Okay? Once they get the right mindset, we're going to move over again to the right knowledge. So go back to that example of Word. So when you remove Word and instill Excel, then when you insert the numbers, it becomes very easy to work with that. And once we finish putting these numbers, which is the right knowledge, we're going to move to the part of the right practice. Now, Madam CEO, you'll realize that Kenyans have this habit. I mean, once tunaanza kukaribia tarehe 20 hapo, kuna kajina tunapenda kutumiaga sana from around 20th mpaka mwisho wa December, starting with R. Kanaitwa resolution. Okay? Na utasikia watu wakisema, my resolution next year is to start saving. My resolution next year is to lose weight. And all these things we keep saying, that's fine. So we get so fired up tunaingia January. Ukikutana na mtu macho muulize umefika wapi, hataki hata kuongelesha. Okay? Why is that? We are going to address that. It's because when you are talking, that's knowledge. but you have no idea how controlled your mind is. We're really going to get into all that. So I have seen people coming up with even Facebook groups called Savings Challenge. Unasikia kitu kama hiyo? So what we want to do, I mean, even the scripture tells us where two or more people are gathered, okay? It's very powerful when you're more people. So on the practice side, after we gain the right mindset and the right knowledge, we want to handhold each other such that this mindset and knowledge, the right mindset and the right knowledge you have got, we want to walk together, all of us. Ndio mtu mmoja akitereza tunamuinua, huyu mwingine akitereza tunainua hivi. So this practice part is going to take like an year. And what will happen at the end of it, next year, at time like now, we are going to review. We are going to review the outcome of what this program will have done. So the outcome number one is you're going to expect the right mindset instilled in your mind. 2, the right knowledge. And 3, we're going to give you a platform to actually practice this thing. And the idea about it will be, at the end of the year, you yourself as a member, you're going to set a target that you'd like to achieve. We cannot set that for you. You understand yourself better. So once you set that, out of this knowledge and mindset, we are going to handhold each other and we're going to walk that journey. Pamoja, we'll be reviewing how you're performing. If you need assistance, we'll come and aid you in that one. The staff of this circle, I'll have empowered them enough to actually be doing that for you. Once in a while, nitakuwa naingia. If there's an input they require from me, I'll be happy to do that. And at the end of the year, we want to see how many of us will have achieved that goal which you have set for yourself. And you're going to see how easy this thing is. Like I've told you, there's so many examples of how these unseen forces control us. For instance, we've been brought up to work very hard. Sindio? Fanya kazi na bidii, put in a lot of effort. Let me ask you a question, my good brothers and sisters. Kuna watu wanafanyanga kazi ngumu kuliko watu wa mjengo. Just think about how hard those people do. Ama wale watu wanafanya kwa kware. They work so hard. You walk around and you see them, the time they wake up, they walk because they can't even afford, taking even public transport. And these people work the whole day, construction going on, carrying debits and all these things. Wanatoka jioni, then they walk back home. How many successful watu wa mjengo have you seen in life? So that they convince you working hard pays. That working hard is what I was talking about, chasing the cat. You are conditioned to limit yourself without you realizing. So these are some of the benefits you're going to expect from this program. We are going to break it out in a way that you're really going to open your mind in ways that you didn't believe you could. So that is what I'm going to, basically, we are going to shift our minds from scarcity to abundance. I'm going to tell you, don't just save for the sake of saving. What is the reason behind saving? So we are going to put savings aside and we're going to put something else that is going to bring savings automatically. And that is where this part of right experience is going to come from. And you're going to see how simple it is. So we'll move from working hard to working smart. You don't have to work hard to be financially stable. You just need to work smart. And working smart is about the mindset, which is I keep telling you is here. But if you're not aware about that, mimi nakwambia utakimbiza mpaka maisha yako yote. You grow old mpaka ushinde kukimbia sasa. And it is all doable. I've told you I've been doing this thing for 3 years, 4 years already, and I'm seeing it is changing people's lives, including my very own daughters. 5-year-old has already started making money at that age. So much of what you've been told is actually a lie. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And as we go through this, mtajionea nyi wenyewe. So that's what my expectation for this program is going to be, Madam CEO. Over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Andrew. I would also like to give our members a chance to react. I can see some on the charts, but before we do that, for our members who probably missed the introduction, we started by explaining why we are here and for how long we are going to be here in this kind of sessions. We said that I know we are used to calling you members about products. There's this new product, you can take a loan, you can do this. We do all that, but we are going back to conditions. We are not in a hurry. We'll be here for the next 6 months and even start again if necessary. So we want to add value to your lives as our members. Please pass that word on for our members who are unable to join. We want to improve quality of life because it's not just about savings and then taking loan and eventually pulling out your savings. What is the value of you being in Telepost Sacco other than in other circles? So thank you so much, Andrew. I would like to give this opportunity to our members who are on the line to react. I know we may not have any questions at this moment. We are trying to get this all in. Probably at this point, I can mention for our members who are chatting and asking how often we shall be doing this, kindly note that we shall be doing this every 2 weeks. Twice a month, including this month of December, we will have another one as we prepare you for the new year. We want you to start the year a bit differently, Andrew, just like you're trying to help us. This time round, these resolutions have got to change or make more sense. So we want our members to start the year a bit strong, and they will be doing this for the next 6 months. So the dates will be given in good time. By tomorrow, we should let you know when we shall have the next one. The January schedule all the way will be shared as we go on. So kindly continue interacting, continue joining. We'll give this opportunity to members. You can actually just say something wherever you are. Let us know that you're getting us and that you are receiving this information. Over to you, members.
Thank you, Madam Senior.
Yes, Geoffrey. Nyapola, karibu sana.
Talk. One is really to start out. The worst place for a young man to start his career, because some of us who started there, I remember, you can never miss money in the banking industry. There are all types of loans and all types of facilities you can always get. And I think the challenge I want to ask the presenter is that when you get a job when you're at 20, 21, 22, you're pretty young, eh? And how do you think you can be able to convince this guy to actually see what you're trying to achieve, or this kind of financial that somebody should have?
Okay, I've got your question, George. Thank you for that. Now, I'm going to simply put it this way. That is actually the reason why we've extended this program. Now, simply put, I've said I'll be talking about mindset. Our young people, by the time being they're joining at that age or starting to work, they already have programs which are running in their minds. The unfortunate thing is, by following the system the way it is, that mind is programmed to be a consuming mind. Okay? When they told you it is wrong to teach children about money, they did not teach you the psychology that children learn from observing. So you, as George said, it is wrong to teach children about money, but you forgot, not that you forgot, you didn't know, wewe ndo unampeleka kwa duka. So what is your child observing in terms of money? He's seeing you picking things and paying. That's a lesson that money is for spending. So think about how many times umempeleka kwa duka. Repeated over and over all these years. Akiona TV advertisement, nunua. Radio, nunua. Everything, billboards, nunua, nunua. So we bombard our children with the message of consumption until it becomes their default state. That is why when we start employment and we're given loans, the first thing we do is just consumption, kununua gari and all that. I'm a victim of that. And I'm going to explain that. So what we need to do, you and I, George, and the rest of the members is, that's why I'm telling you, to break that cycle, we need to start kutoka pale chini. So we start transforming this mind from consumption into assets. They start seeing it from a very young age, to a point where the goal, let me tell you the end goal, George, of what we want to do. In fact, we'll have a session for children as well. The idea will be, before I purchase any liability like this phone, we want to program in their minds that this liability should be provided for by a cash flowing asset. So the mind starts thinking of building up a cash flowing asset that is going to produce cash to purchase liability. And you're going to appreciate more as we progress with this program. If you have young people or children, feel free to share this link with them for them to attend. And I can tell you, it's a wave that is starting to wake up in Kenya, because we're approaching it very differently because of what I talked about. The issue is the mindset. We, at home, we don't teach these things. Our schools don't teach these things. But behind the curtain, we are not aware of the damaging effect of the psychology of the mind, because these children are daily, constantly being bombarded with the message of consumption. If you add social media into that, it just blows everything out of proportion. So by the time being, which the next 2 lessons we're going to conduct, I will be focusing on the mind. And by the time I finish those 2, your answer will be answered completely. But that's just the brief I can give you for now, George. I hope that makes sense to you.
All right. Thank you, Nyapola, for that. We still have about 10 minutes, members. Any reactions? As Andrew has pointed out, this is a 12-session program. So it means that this is almost a teaser. We will be unfolding these things. Your questions will be answered as we proceed. Thank you for the members that are putting on the chat saying it's very educative and that you'd like to get to know when we shall be having the next ones. We shall be doing that for sure. So any more reactions, our members? There's a chat here. Someone is asking, Kathy Naka, we clarify about the sessions and the intervals. So the next session will be held 2 weeks from now. We shall give the date by tomorrow. But the idea is to have 2 sessions every single month for the next 6 months, beginning this December. So we will be sure to outline the dates clearly. Actually, from tomorrow, you should be able to know when to prepare for the next one. And then as we get to the new year, you should be able to have the calendar for the 5 months that will be following up. Thank you, Kathy. Members, feel free to say something. Yes.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah, please proceed.
Hello, my name is Celestine, from Nakuru.
Yes, Celestine, karibu. Yes, we are getting you.
Yeah, actually, what Andrew is giving us is like erasing what has been in our minds and bringing more information. And like you said, I like it that there's the time agenda. You know, you can start from where you are. And we are so grateful, Madam CEO, for bringing such kind of talks. Yeah, it's not just a circle like you said, lending money, saving. A circle that is giving you information, actually changing your mindset. And actually, I'm so grateful. As much as maybe I would say I never got it as I entered into job, as I started my work. But not all is lost. I can start from where I am. but this is the right way to go. It is not money chasing after the cat, but letting the cat come to you and holding the cat. I'm so impressed. Very educative, very informative. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Celestine, from my home county, Nakuru. There's Jacob here is asking about the children. Andrew, you said something about the children. Yes, Andrew has offered to give us 5 hours free session for the children, mostly, I believe, 7 years and above, Andrew. So we will be sure to give you advance notice about when we shall have that online session for the children. We'll make sure that all the members get to know when that will be happening. Of course, probably in the new year before we send them to school. So thank you so much, Jacob, for that. Members, kindly, you can say something. Andrew, probably in your closing remark, you will address those of us that are feeling that, is it too late? Probably 5 years to retirement. Is there anything that I can do? Can I retire into something rather than retire out of something? You probably help us there as we close.
Okay.
Gabriel, please proceed. Your hand is up, Gabriel Odongo.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Gabriel from Kisumu. I'm impressed about the teachings and the sessions and the knowledge which has been passed, because it is also directly joined to the scriptures, and that is a better place. And I can confirm here is a better place for us to move and to grow and to make money, not us to follow after money, but the money to follow after us. May God bless the vision. It is a good vision and it is a good plan. That is the only that I have.
Wow, thank you so much, Gabriel from Kisumu. As I mentioned earlier, members, we are privileged to have our chairman with us. He was not able to introduce, was on the road. So, chairman, kindly say something.
Thank you, Madam CEO.
Yeah.
Thank you, the facilitator, Mr. Andrew Kibe. Thank you, all the members that were able to join the group. My signal strength keep on dropping, but I just want to make a very quick observation, very brief, that I'll be waiting to see how I can work smart instead of struggling. Secondly, I want the money to work for me and me not working for the money. So I'll be waiting for those scenarios as they unfold. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Chairman, for also making time wherever you are to join us. I know we also have most of our directors on the line and our staff team. Thank you so much. In the next sessions, I know we'll be able to interact more. Peter, your hand is raised. Peter, proceed. Peter, please go ahead. Okay. There's a member asking how, I think he has invited a friend, asking how the friend can join the Sacco. We'll be dropping our marketing manager's contact on the chat so that, or drop their contacts, we are able to reach out from tomorrow. Thank you so much. Peter, your hand is still raised. Kindly proceed. We can hear you. Anyone else can say something as Peter sorts out. We are almost coming to a close. We agreed that we'll be keeping time so that next time, kindly members. Yes.
Good evening.